We just found out you're from Long Island.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob.
I'm from Long Island. And nobody knows me as Rob Friedman. It's so sad.
Well, back in Holbrook they do, Rob. Back in Holbrook they do.
In Holbrook they probably do. Yeah, exactly.
But now you live in North Carolina now, and you got that Southern accent. So we never knew. Is North Carolina or South Carolina?
Atlanta. So
Atlanta.
I went further down. I went to school in North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I moved further down, and I'm in Atlanta now.
Okay. Well, you picked up the accent, and you ditched the Long Island accent, but we still will forgive you for it. Okay, so the Pitching Ninja, again, YouTube, Twitter, they got merch on RotoWare, they've got it all, and you make baseball and pitching accessible to the audience. But while you were doing that, you actually gained this huge following amongst Major League Baseball pitchers themselves. So I'm curious, how much of your day is posting stuff online like that you want to put to your audience, and how much is it fielding calls, DMs from actually professional players asking you for tape and breakdowns and your thoughts on pitching?
That is a great question. Some days more than others, between interviews and then them asking for stuff. Yeah, it could take up a good part of the day, but it's so much fun. Like, why would you not do that? It's a great opportunity to, like, I didn't grow up thinking that was going to happen. It's pretty cool.
No, it is. I mean, it's awesome, Rob. It's DeGrom night tonight, right, for the Mets as they take on the Braves. We were chatting with Steve Gelbs earlier from SNY, and what more can you say about DeGrom, right? I mean, how many more accolades? How many more great, all-time great, all these things that we throw at Jake. The evolution of DeGrom. What have you seen here, Rob?
It is amazing. I think it's fairly unprecedented. He just gets better and better. He throws harder. His stuff, his command is insane. His competitiveness. I mean, I think that's the thing that jumps out to me lately is how he harnesses his competitiveness. And people see, like, off the field, he seems like a real chill dude. On the field, if he has 2 strikes on a hitter, it's like he needs it as much as he needs to breathe. Like, you can see it in his face, the intensity. And his ability to take one pitch at a time, like, mentally, I think he's taken that up a notch. So between his stuff and his makeup and his repeatability of his mechanics, like, I'm in awe too, like just like everybody is. Like, I love watching it. I will drop everything to watch it. If Jake, if you're out there, I'd love to have you on my show. I'm gonna keep putting
He's a
pressure
loyal
on
listener,
him.
Rob. So
yeah, good. So yeah, we're gonna get Jake on there. But no, I mean, insane. Like, I absolutely love watching him pitch.
And we know that you've gotten a bit of a personal relationship with Marcus Stroman. He's a guy who has reached out to you on many occasions. What are you seeing from Stroman now? The last outing wasn't so great, but he was very good before that. And sort of what's your relationship with him like?
So he is one of my long time follower before if I was ever cool, before I was cool. So if you consider it semi-cool now, he is a day one. Love the dude. I love what he's about. I love his competitiveness. He just does things differently. He's very loyal dude. And adding that split change, I think, is really important for his overall arsenal. So you add that pitch, that people just can't sit on everything, going away. He does have a sinker, which is filthy too. But as a person, I love his impact on the game. He avoids people around him that have drama. He's very focused. He loves being on the Mets. He's a New Yorker. So talking about Holbrook, like, he grew up like 2 miles from where I grew up, and different time period, but I still think he was in the Rob Friedman map of life. Like, he just followed me around, and he went to Duke, and I went to North Carolina. So, like, I consider him kind of a follower of. No, he's a great dude. We talk regularly.
Yeah, I mean, Rob, what you've seen from Stroman, that half year up in Toronto where he pitched the under 3 ERA before he got acquired by Brody and the Mets here, where he became, that ground ball pitcher instead of seeking the strikeouts. Was that kind of the year where Stroman found it, or that half season where Stroman found it?
I think things click. Like, he is constantly evolving. He's one of those guys that doesn't leave well. Like, even now, he's still looking to improve on that split change of his. He's always asking questions, always asking to see grips. I think that's what separates him, is he doesn't, he just doesn't like the status quo. He's constantly trying to get better. Same thing with DeGrom. Like those are the great pitchers, the guys that are seeking information, that can synthesize it. They're not just followers. They want to learn. And I think that's what I see. Like, I don't know there was ever, the sinker was one thing that clicked for him. I think when he originally threw it, he told me that. He said, before the sinker, he was mostly a four-seam guy. And then he learned this, and he's got this wicked, like a very, very unique grip. And I think that helped make him. But I don't think you've seen the best of him. Like, I think there is another layer that you're going to uncover with Stroh. And he's so much fun to watch. Like, for fans, everybody should be a Marcus Stroman fan. Just should.
Rob Friedman is our guest. You know him as Pitching Ninja. You can follow him on Twitter, his YouTube channel. Rob, you mentioned about synthesizing information, and like pitchers in baseball today are overwhelmed with information, I'm sure. Yet they seek out your stuff on top of that. Why do you think your breakdowns, what you're bringing, why do you think that resonates with professional baseball players?
So I think there's a new trend. Like, for one, I am objective. Like, I do not root for a team. I root for players, and I root for pitchers specifically. So they know I always have their back. I don't dog them. I'm not on, I don't criticize. Every once in a while, if somebody does, like, very, very rarely. Like, I'm mostly positive. That's just the way I go about stuff. And I think sometimes they don't like going to their coaching staff because there's a couple of different reasons. One is a lot of times they're told, oh, don't worry about it. I got this, or you don't need to add this. You don't need to add this pitch. You're great. We don't think, and they know they do. So they have to own their career. And the team isn't necessarily always on their side. They are for that season, but there's a point where at some points they're adversarial, right? Like, if there's like an arbitration thing, they're pulling out all the negative stuff on you, and you're now adversaries. So you may not be on that team even for the full season. So they want to have somebody that is there, somebody that is consistent in their camp, that isn't a yes guy, but that also, I get a lot. Like, I research everybody. So I can take the best of everybody. And if somebody has a question, kind of give it to them. And I'm very accessible, I guess. And if they don't like it, they don't have to do it.
Rob, with all that, like, if with all the relationships you have with pitchers across Major League Baseball, is there one that stands out to where besides Stroman, obviously, that kind of piece of advice, whatever it might be, that led to the kind of a real tangible, instant result because of your work with that pitcher? Yeah,
Yu Darvish. So last year, Yu Darvish contact, like you and I have a pretty long-standing relationship too. We'll like over DMs, over texting, whatever. But he had asked me for Shane Bieber's knuckle curve grip and his release, like during the season. And I'm like, you have 11 pitches. You really don't need another one. But he asked for it. I got him it. And he then threw it in the next game and then proceeded to change it to make it his slider. So he now throws a spiked slider like Bieber's knuckle curve, but he throws it as a slider. And it's because he's brilliant. Like, Yu Darvish is a brilliant pitch design person, but the fact that he put it into play the next game is incredible. Jake Diekman did that last year too with his slider. He added a ton of extra break with his slider by borrowing Chaz Rowe's grip through me. He asked me for it. I'm like, yeah, here you go. And like 2 games later, he's throwing this hellacious slider, like unhittable. So it happens fairly regularly. And you just keep those relationships. Like, as long as you just treat them like dudes, like they're just normal people and that are asking for stuff. I mean, it's awesome. Like, that's so much fun.
What's the toughest advice you've had to give somebody? I know you want to be positive, but what's the toughest advice you've had to give a pitcher and be honest with them and really try to help them out, but maybe it wasn't exactly what they wanted to hear?
Yeah, that's a great question because like occasionally they'll ask me about a pitch they have. I don't want to give out a name, but sometimes they'll send me something and say, hey, what do you think about that? I'm like, I mean, like I it's okay. Like, you might want to change. Usually it wouldn't be like bad mouth. I would say, that looks great, but you may want to change your spin axis a little bit to get a little more movement on it. Because once you're negative to somebody, they shut down. Like, you want to be truthful, but you can't like dog them. Like that's the way you teach anything. Like, you teach people by bringing out the best in them and trying to help them with negative stuff. But if you're too negative about stuff, I think people turn off and they don't like you anymore. Like, I
think that's a good point. I mean, Rob, Yankee fans were celebrating watching Corey Kluber, pitch, 6+ innings last night down in Camden. What do you see? I mean, Cole's brilliant. When you look at this Yankee rotation, I know you want to spin it positive, but when you look at this rotation here, because you're a positive guy, but Kluber, Tyone, Montgomery, does this look like a rotation that you think can come into form and get this Yankee team where they want to go, which is October success?
I don't know. I think that's as negative as I'm going to be. Like, Cole is obviously top tier. Like, Cole, there's DeGrom, and then there's like DeGrom is like in a tier by himself right now. Like, there's nobody near that. But Cole is, in Cole and Bieber ish. And then there's a gap. Like, they need people to step up. I mean, and that's what the issue is. I mean, the back end of the bullpen, I think Chapman's as good as he's ever been. Like, literally as good as ever been. Like, as good as anybody's ever been right now, because he strikes everybody out. So, I mean, I don't know that you can do any better than that. I think there's like starting pitching, people just have to step up. Over the long run, we'll see. Like, Corey Kluber is, when he's at his best, if he still has that in him, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. I don't know that you still have that Corey Kluber, though. I just don't know that that's still there. Adding that changeup, you saw him flash that was pretty nasty.
No, that was. And you're right about that, and it was a positive step forward last night. I'm curious, Rob, have you seen Tyone's talked about his revamped, reworked delivery from the Tommy John surgery, couldn't throw the way that he was throwing in Pittsburgh. What about Tyone here and what you've seen pre-surgery, post-surgery?
He's definitely – so this is a trend, is people shortening up their arm action. I think back in the day, everyone was taught, like, if you want to throw hard, you have to really take your arm back. You don't want to be short with it. And people are just coming to grips with the fact that that's not true. It never was true. But now you see Trevor Bauer with a short arm action, Bieber with a short arm action, Giolito with a short arm action. Joe Kelly has a short arm action. There's a ton of pitchers that do that, and they're extremely successful, and they throw hard. So you have that, and Tyone has always been a longer arm action guy, so he has shortened it. And I think it can help with consistency, command, potentially velocity. I look at more as a little more deception. If you're shorter, there's less things that can go wrong, and it's harder to pick the ball up. So I think that's really important. And then he stresses tunneling. So I think his stuff has the ability to tunnel really well. I mean, his curveball and fastball especially. So I'd give him some time. He's a great dude, very smart. Another one of those guys that's always trying to learn stuff, very positive dude. I think what happens with fans is fans get very negative very quickly when they see a team struggle, and booing doesn't necessarily help a player get better. I know it feels good as a fan, but just think, like, if somebody's in your ear constantly about how much you suck, it kills you. Like, that your confidence is down. So, like, I mean, if fans thought about that and like be a little positive about it, like give them some time, if you suck over a long run, sure. But this little stub of a season so far, give him some time.
Are you sure you're from Long Island? I'm just kidding.
Rob
Friedman is the pitching ninja. I'm just joking.
That's a great point.
Rob, I want to ask you about two pitchers who are both coming off the mend from Tommy John surgery in this town, and that's Luis Severino and Noah Syndergaard. Obviously, two guys who are going to be super important. Well, Syndergaard's got a contract situation, so I don't know where he's going to be next year necessarily. But Severino, obviously, the Yankees are hoping still for good things, great things from Severino. What do you see about those two guys, and what are you expecting from them after they're back from Tommy John?
I don't expect, like, I try to temper expectations because everybody comes back at different paces. So I don't want to put a lot of pressure in my mind. Like, I don't expect a lot when you're just coming back from that. I think you have to get used to the workload again and just get used to competing again. Like, things change. Like, you may not be in sync for a little bit, but those two guys are two of my favorite guys to watch. Like, Thor's stuff is just off the charts. And people forget, like, his results are sick. Like, if you were a normal pitcher and you had his results, you'd sit there and go, that guy's great. But they expect so much more because he walks on the field like a superhero. And he has like off the chart stuff there. Everybody's like, how does anyone get a hit off him? If they get a hit, it means he sucks. I mean, Severino, kind of the same. Severino is like an electric factory. I mean, that guy on the field is a competitor. He's fun to watch. His stuff is filthy. And I think people kind of forget that because he hasn't been there for a little bit. Both of those guys are game changers for those rotations. But I don't want every fan to say they're back, and now if they don't succeed right away, that there's something. It's going to take a while. It's hard. The game's hard. It's a hard game.
No, it is.
They make it look easy.
Well,
sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes. Not the Yankees this year, but for the most part. Right. Rob, I want to ask you, the last one for me would be kind of just looking at baseball on the whole this year, right? So they've deadened the baseball by, according to MLB scientists, 5 to 6%, right? They're attacking the substances on the baseball as well that pitchers are using. What have you noticed, and have you noticed a discernible difference looking at, spin rate, looking at pitchers with what baseball's trying to do this year, get more action, less launch angle, less strikeouts, less home runs?
No. I think the stuff is filthier now, actually. That's a great question because that is the intent. If you look at it, and I was just talking to Barton Smith, who's an aerospace engineer scientist, and we started talking about the stats this year and how hitting is down. And there's no real reason for hitting to be down except pitching is up. I think everybody just wants to make it on Pitching Ninja, so it keeps throwing really filthy stuff. A little plug for me. But no, it's really true. Like, I think it's just nasty. Like, the art of pitching and the science of pitching have come together that you can design some pitches in a lab that if a pitcher wants to, they can now create an arsenal that is almost humanly impossible to hit. So, it's up to hitters to step up, though. Like, you don't want to handicap, right? I mean, you're not going to handicap pitchers because they've gotten good. Like, hitters, it's your turn. Get in the lab, get better, figure out a way. If you need to beat the shift, figure out a way to do it. Or, study, like, there's virtual reality stuff. There's a lot of things hitters can do. So do it. Don't ask for help. I don't want to handicap my guys. Come on.
Spoken like a true pitching guru. That's Rob Friedman. He's the Pitching Ninja. We're flat out of time. Thank you so much
Robbie,
for joining us. We know you're very busy, and we hope to have you on again. It's great to know you're from Long Island. Holbrook, stand up. Rob, you can find him on Twitter at Pitching Ninja. His YouTube channel is phenomenal. Love your merch at RotoWare. Got that really cool Pitching Ninja logo. All the best to you, Rob, and hope to talk again soon, okay?
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.